It was the year 1925 in the beautiful city of Paris. It's where all of the fashion began. The sophistication, the singers, the dancers. Before there was even a Beyonce or Beehive, we have Miss Josephine Baker, and we call her our first black star. We talk about her in history, but many don't know her. So we have to keep history alive for our children. Miss Josephine Baker, a dancer, singer, actress, mother of the Rainbow Tribe, a spy. And don't forget that banana skirt dance. Can we get into it? Oh, yes, we can. But first, let me say, welcome to the Tracy Show. Tracy with an I, not with a Y. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's go. Frida Josephine Baker was born June 3rd, 1906. Naturalized as Josephine Baker, was an American-born French dancer, singer, and actress. Her career was centered primarily in Europe, mostly in France. She was the first black woman to star in a major motion picture. Siren of the Tropics, directed by Mario Naples and Henry Elevant. During her early career, Baker was among the most celebrated performers to headline the revues of the Folies Bergère in Paris. Her performance in its 1927 revue, Un Vent de Folie, caused a sensation in the city. Her costume, consisting only of a short skirt of artificial bananas and a beaded necklace, became an iconic image and a symbol both of the jazz age and the roaring 20s. Baker was celebrated by artists and intellectuals of the era, who variously dubbed her the Black Venus, the Black Pearl, the Bronze Venus, and the Creole Goddess. Born in St. Louis, Missouri, she renounced her U.S. citizenship and became a French national after her marriage to French industrialist Jean Lyon in 1937. She adopted 12 children, which she referred to as the Rainbow Tribe, and raised them in France. Baker aided the French resistance during World War II and also worked with the British Secret Intelligence Service and the U.S. Secret Service, the extent of which was not publicized until 2020 when French documents were declassified. After the war, she was awarded the Resistance Medal by the French Committee of National Liberation, the Croix de Guerre by the French military, and was named Chevalier of the Legion of Honor by General Charles de Gaulle. Baker sang, "I have two loves for my country and Paris." She refused to perform for segregated audiences in the United States and is also noted for her contributions to the civil rights movement. In 1968, she was offered unofficial leadership in the movement following the assassination of Martin Luther King. However, she declined due to concerns for the welfare of her children. On November 30th, 2021, Baker was inducted into the Pantheon in Paris, the first black woman to receive one of the highest honors in France. Her resting place remains in Monaco Cemetery. Early life. Josephine Baker was born Frida Josephine McDonald in St. Louis, Missouri. Baker's ancestry is unknown. Her mother, Carrie, was adopted in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1886 by Richard and Elvira McDonald, both of whom were former slaves of African descent. Baker's estate identifies vaudeville drummer Eddie Carson as her natural father, despite evidence to the contrary. McDonald and Carson were vaudeville performers. In 1983, Josephine Baker's foster son, Jean-Claude Baker, published a biography titled Josephine, The Hungry Heart, which was the culmination of decades of exhaustive research into Baker's life and career. In the book, he discusses at length the circumstances surrounding Baker's birth. And I quote from the book, "The records of the city of St. Louis tell an almost unbelievable story. They show that Baker's mother, Carrie McDonald, was admitted to the exclusively white female hospital on May 3rd, 1906, diagnosed as pregnant. She was discharged on June 17th with her baby Frida McDonald having been born 2 weeks earlier. Why 6 weeks in the hospital? Especially for a black woman of that time who would customarily have had her baby at home with the help of a midwife? Not understanding why there's a question mark there, but I'll keep going. The father was identified on the birth certificate simply as EDW. I think Josephine's father was white. So did Josephine, so did her family. People in St. Louis say that Baker's mother had worked for a German family around the time she became pregnant. So we know, we really know who the pappy is. But again, I will keep going. I have unraveled many mysteries associated with Josephine Baker, but the most painful mystery of her life, the mystery of her father's identity, I could not solve. The secret died with Carrie, who refused to the end to talk about it. Well, there's your answer right there. The German family? Yes, it was. She just let people think that Eddie Carson was the father, and Carson played along. But Josephine knew better. Josephine McDonald spent her early life on 212 Targhee Street, known by some St. Louis residents as Johnson Street, in the Chestnut Valley neighborhood of St. Louis, a racially mixed low-income area near Union Station, consisting of mainly of rooming houses, brothels, and apartments without indoor plumbing. She was poorly dressed, hungry as a child, and developed street smarts playing in the railroad yards of Union Station. Her mother married Arthur Martin, a kind but perpetually unemployed man, with whom she had a son and 2 more daughters. She worked in a laundry. Her mother placed her there to her family being impoverished. She worked there in order to increase the income of her family. And at 8 years old, Josephine began working as a live-in domestic for white families in St. Louis. One woman abused her, burning Josephine's hands when the young girl put too much soap in the laundry. In 1917, when she was 11, a terrified Josephine McDonald witnessed racial violence in East St. Louis. In a speech years later, she recalled what she had seen. And I quote, "I can still see myself standing on the west bank of the Mississippi, looking over into the East St. Louis and watching the glow of the burning of Negro homes lighting the sky. We children stood huddled together in bewilderment, frightened to death with the screams of the Negro families running across the bridge with nothing but what they had on their backs. And so, with this vision, I ran and ran. In her teens, she struggled to have a healthy relationship with her mother, who opposed her becoming an entertainer and scolded her for not tending to her second husband, William Howard Baker, whom she had married in 1921 at age 15. She soon left him with her vaudeville troupe, was booked into a New York City venue. They divorced in 1925, during a period when her career success was beginning. Still, she continued to use his last name professionally for the rest of her life. Baker had an unrelenting badgering of a local show manager led to her recruitment for the St. Louis Chorus Vaudeville Act. At the age of 13, she headed to New York City during the Harlem Renaissance and performed at the Plantation Club, Florence Mill's old stomping ground. After several auditions, she secured a role in the chorus line of a touring production of the groundbreaking and hugely successful Broadway revue, Shuffle Along. That helped bring attention to Florence Mills, Paul Robeson, and Adelaide Hall. In Shuffle Along, Baker was a dancer at the end of a chorus line. Fearing she might be overshadowed by the others, she used her position to ad-lib, introducing a hint of comedy into her routine, making her stand out from her fellow dancers, thus going off script. Yet, engaging audiences, she began in Shuffle Along with one of the U.S. touring companies, but once she became of age, she was transferred to the Broadway production. She remained there for several months until the show closed in 1923. Next, Baker was cast in The Chocolate Dandies, a revue that opened on September 1st, 1924. Again, she was neglected to the chorus line. The show ran for 96 performances, finally closing on November 22nd, 1924. Baker sailed to Paris in 1925 and opened on October 2nd in La Revue Negra at the Theatre des Champs-Élysées. I hope I'm saying it right. In the year of 1974, Miss Baker had an interview with The Guardian. She explained that her first big break came in the bustling European city. And I quote, "No, I didn't get my first break on Broadway. I was only in the chorus and Shuffle Along and Chocolate Dandies. I became famous first in France in the 20s. I just couldn't stand America, and I was one of the first colored Americans to move to Paris. Oh, yes, Bricktop was there as well. Me and her were the only two, and we had a marvelous time. Of course, everyone who was anyone knew Bricky, and they got to know Miss Baker as well." In Paris, she became an instant success for her erotic dancing and for appearing practically nude on stage. After a while, Baker became the most successful American entertainer in France. Ernest Hemingway called her the most sensational woman anyone ever saw. The author spent hours talking with her in Parisian bars. Baker endorsed a hair gel as well as bananas, shoes, and cosmetics, among other products. Child, Baker Josephine was getting to the bag. You hear me? She say colored or not colored. I'm gonna make this money right here. That's why black people, we are so resilient. We are so resilient. Woo! Let me keep going. Despite her popularity in France, Baker never attained the equivalent reputation in America. Her star turned in a 1936 revival of Ziegfeld Follies on Broadway was not commercially successful. And later, her role was replaced by Gypsy Rose Lee. Time magazine referred to her as a Negro wench whose dancing and singing might be topped anywhere outside of Paris, while other critics said her voice was too thin and dwarf-like to fill the Winter Garden Theater. She returned to Europe heartbroken. This contributed to Baker's becoming a legal citizen of France and giving up her American citizenship. Miss Baker, let me tell you, ain't nothing changed. There isn't anything that's changed. Because don't nobody want to be here in America right now either. And if I could get a citizenship over there at France, I go. Because I can't afford nothing here. But let me keep going. In 1937, Baker married the French industrialist Jean Lion, thus becoming a French citizen. In 1939, in September, when France declared war on Germany in response to the invasion of Poland, Baker was recruited by the French military intelligence agency as an honorable correspondent. Baker worked with Jacques Apte, the head of French counterintelligence in Paris. She socialized with the Germans at embassies, ministries, nightclubs, charming them while secretly gathering information. Her cafe society fame enabled her to rub shoulders with those in the know. She attended parties and gathered information at the Italian embassy without raising suspicion. Baker's espionage work went way beyond merely gathering information at social events. She had a pilot's license, and during the Phone War, she flew missions. She collected detailed intelligence on German troop movements, as well as the locations and activities of airfields and harbors, confident in her celebrity status and the protections it afforded. Baker believed she could operate without raising suspicion. After the war, Baker was awarded the Renaissance Medal by the French Committee of National Liberation, the Croix de Guerre by the French military, and was named a Chevalier of the Legion d'Honneur by General Charles de Gaulle. In 1952, Baker was hired to crown the Queen of the Cavalcade of Jazz for the famed 8th Cavalcade of Jazz concert held at Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. In January of 1966, Fidel Castro invited Baker to perform at the Teatro Musical de la Habana on October 16, Cuba. 1951, Josephine Baker experienced a public incident where she said to have been refused service at the upscale Stork Club in New York City. Determined to expose this injustice, Baker set out to publicize her story, expecting support from one of America's most powerful conservative journalists and one of the regulars in the club, Walter Winchell. Instead of soldierizing with Baker, Winchell launched a media attack on her. He labeled her as an anti-American communist sympathizer, which turned the public attention away from the discrimination she had to face. This was an incident that proved that, on one hand, Baker faced racism, while on the other hand, influential people were also up against the efforts to fight against the same. In her later years, Baker converted to Catholicism. In 1968, Baker lost her chateau owing to unpaid debts. Afterwards, Princess Grace offered her an apartment near Monaco. Baker was back on stage at the Olympia in Paris in 1966, in Belgrade, and at Carnegie Hall in 1973, and at the Royal Variety Performance at the London Palladium, and at the Gala des Cirques in Paris 1974. On April 8, 1975, Baker starred in a retrospective review at the Bombino in Paris. Baker celebrated 50 years in show business. 4 days later, Baker was found lying peacefully in her bed, surrounded by newspapers with glowing reviews of her performance. She was in a coma after suffering a cerebral hemorrhage. She was taken to the hospital, where she passed away, age 68, on April 12, 1975. Baker received a full Catholic funeral, attracting more than 20,000 mourners. The only American-born woman to receive a full French military honors at her funeral. Baker's funeral was the occasion of a huge procession. After family service at St. Charles Church in Monte Carlo, Baker was interred at the Cemetery de Monaco. Josephine Baker, gone, but never, ever forgotten. May you continue to rest in peace. Your job was well done. Well done. Thank you all for listening, watching. Like this video, share this video, comment on this video. Let me know if you learned something new. But let me tell you, there's so much information, so many things that Miss Baker did. Like, there's no way I could have put everything into this video. She did so much. We can only be so proud of her. Oh my goodness. I would love to share with you all the rest of her life, her marriage, her children, how she lost the home and how she came back. This story is amazing. Amazing. Put it in the comments if you would like to hear more about Josephine Baker. And don't forget to like the video, share the video, comment on the video, and please hit that subscribe. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank all of you. And let me know again if you learned something new, or let me know something that I didn't say and you may know. Thank you. The Tracy Show.